we now have the sum of all knowledge at our fingertips. There are different levels of AI. There's a base level, which most people have played around with, which is prompt engineering. The next layer is automations, connecting different systems, integrating different systems to try and get them to talk to each other, to try and pass insights. At the top level is integration of AI agents into workflow. And the way these AI agents work is effectively learn how to do your job and learn how to do your job with AI. If you had to start $1 million business tomorrow, what would you do? Pick up the phone and I would call a business and I would say,
Alex, welcome to the pod. Thanks for being here.
thank you.
You started Integral Media in 2016,
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah,
What were you doing before then?
I was actually in a business partnership with two other business partners. So prior to that, I was a general manager for a decent sized agency and came back to Melbourne and decided, I want to go and give this a crack for myself and see what I can do. I had a chat with two associates at the time, did something with them for a couple of years. Didn't quite work out the way I intended. And I thought, I want a bit more control over what I'm doing. So from that's where I formed Integral. And the whole idea behind it was I really wanted to pitch this idea of integrity, trust, honesty behind what we do as a business, partner with our businesses and work with them for years to come. And that really resonates with our audience. Like the amount of times, whenever we do radio ads, the amount of times I go out to see a client and they'll be like, oh, we just want to work with someone that's got a bit of integrity. I'm like, it's in the name.
It's in the name. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So 2016, coming up to 10 years.
Was there a lack of integrity in the space that you're in? Do you feel?
There are a range of different players. I'll be politically correct with how I position it, but that's everyone's on their own journey. That's their own focus. For me, it was really just making sure that we look after people. I could see what these business owners were trying to do. Right, I could see that these business owners, they're just trying to grow a good life for themselves, create some jobs, create some opportunities on that journey, and for me, I wanted to help them do that. And by helping them do that and adding value, that's how we've managed to grow our business in return as well. And those accounts have grown with us and we're continuing to win more accounts that, it's really interesting. Like I think a lot of our clients, they might have dealt with 2 or 3 agencies beforehand and they'll all promise the world and some, will do okay. But when they work with us, I think they really get that idea of, you guys are you're invested in us. Like you're really trying to make this work for you. Like, well, yeah, because I want to sleep at night knowing I've done a good job. And I want to wake up the next day excited to go to work. I don't want to have to come into a whole bunch of angry customers calling me going, we're not happy, we're not happy, we're not happy. I'm not interested in that. I want people calling me saying, love working with you. Let's go out for lunch. Let's catch up. And, my clients become my friends over time. Like a lot of my clients, I, consider friends now as well that like you're experiencing the similar challenges, so it's good to have this network of people that we kind of workshop these things with as well. Yeah.
So it's the things you specialize in are like SEO, other digital services like media marketing, these type of things?
Yeah. So we're in this evolution at the moment, as a lot of businesses are. So our pedigree, where we've come from, is a digital marketing agency. So yeah, that's right. Website, a lot of social media stuff, a lot of Google stuff. But the reality is where we are going is we're positioning ourselves more as a digital success partner. So we're helping our customers look at the whole life cycle of their customer, looking at how do you acquire more customers? How do you convert more of those customers? How do you optimize your CRM, your sales process to make sure that you're nurturing them through properly? How do you look in your existing database to try and find and identify any opportunities within there that you can cross-sell or upsell different services to as well? That's now evolving around to more business process. So having these conversations with our clients, they're also then opening up to us around, we've got this challenge around these systems don't integrate, they don't talk to each other. They don't, we've got a lot of smarts or intelligence that's not being passed through these different systems. So how we're developing is really how we can assist our clients, first of all, set up a good baseline for their current systems, and then seeing how they can use technology to improve and leverage over that point. And obviously with AI at the moment, that's really changing the game in terms of the speed of which we can make these improvements for our clients as well.
Got you, yeah. Where's the major challenges that you see clients facing?
Whew. Different for different industries because we're across a range of different industries. I mean, the common thing is obviously people is usually finding good people, retaining, training a good workforce, and then it's revenue. How do you make it rain? How do you get more customers in the door?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where you like to come in and build relationships for the long term to help assist in achieving that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it's interesting. We are helping them improve their processes to acquire and retain customers. But in doing that and improving the technologies and the processes that these businesses are using, we're actually helping them retain staff as well. Because all of a sudden their staff are happier in their jobs doing what they're doing because they're seeing a shift within these organizations where it's like, oh, you're being more visionary now. You're not just doing the same thing that you always did. You're trying to look for how you can develop and grow your business and what opportunities are out there, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. It's fascinating. That's something you wouldn't really think would be beneficial. Like in that, you wouldn't think past the revenue stages but looking at things like your employee satisfaction, that's incredible. That adds tenfold.
Look, and I think I've been doing this for too long now. And I think after having conversations with so many business owners over that period of time, you start to just, their challenges, what their challenges are going to be. Like if I go and talk to a gym owner, I know what their challenges are going to be. Not that I would, of course. If I go and talk to a law firm, if I go and talk to an accounting practice, if I go and talk to a construction, like a builder, or I'll just know what I'll know their business. I'll have an idea of what their challenge is going to be before I've even spoken to them. So it's at the point now where I'll talk to them and say, oh, you've got this challenge, and this is your problem, and these are your opportunities, to which they're just confirming, saying, yeah, that's right. And then it's obviously trying to understand their business specifically. But you build up a lot of that insight over the years.
Yeah.
My thing to add on that is when on the integral front, I don't think there's even a lot of digital media companies that try to not be integral. But my experience before working with Alex is people hire a marketing agency because they don't know what they're doing in that front and they need help with that. It's almost like going to a mechanic to you go and fix my car because I don't know how to fix it, right? But the mechanic goes to you, I'm going to do all of this stuff. You have no context of whether it's right or wrong. So previously, the SEO companies will work with, a lot of them are offshore. So the English is off. And I remember saying, like, please make sure these articles you write are relevant to our business. And it's not. And you find out when like 50 pages have done, there's wrong grammar, wrong stuff. So when Alex coming out understands that, that's what spoke to me. Like, oh, okay, you understand what we're going through. You're a local person. So I think a lot of the thing is with digital media is people hire you because they don't know what they're doing. They need your help.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And I think also it's interesting. What I've always said to people is almost as important as what we do is educating our clients what we are doing for them as part of that process. Because when they understand what we're doing, they are able to make better decisions for their business. And it means we're really partnering with them. It's not they're relying on us to do all of these things for them, but they understand what we're doing, and then they understand the value that we're bringing to the table for them as well. Yeah.
Okay, almost like it's in-house but out-house at the same time.
Which is a really interesting point, because I feel that's a lot where we are moving to as a business is really companies outsourcing their marketing departments to us.
Right, okay.
So instead of hiring an internal marketing, or either that or overflow, either that or they've got a marketing manager in place and the marketing manager just doesn't have enough time to do all the things they want to do. And then we're coming in as a strategic advisor and then working and partnering with them to help deliver solutions to them.
What do you think? Do you think from being a business owner yourself, do you think having in-house would be a thing that would be viable for you? Or
Well,
maybe going outhouse.
the reason why we work with Alex is it depends on your business. You will need an agency when you're not, it's hard to manage your own staff members. And you will need to, let's just say you're in the business of, I don't know, making, mints or
Mints.
something, right? Your expertise is not in marketing. And when you're so small, you probably don't have the budget to then outsource a team to go and do all of this stuff, and you don't have the expertise. So hiring an external team when Alex's job is actually just to manage. I'm making mints, he's making marketing teams. So that's where the collaborate happens. And also when you grow, for example, you might have a marketing team and you're going through like this stage of growth where you can't handle enough work. This is not enough. It's too much work for you to handle. You outsource companies. So I definitely see.
Yeah, totally. Like I would imagine at some point soon for training day, you probably will be in that point where you'll have a marketing resource that will really help drive that forward with the business. And then we'll probably work with them to help deliver that strategy for you. And we see this growth with a lot of businesses. So, and you're right, that's how we help a business will be a custom solution based on who that business is and what their needs are. And that will change over time as well.
Got you,
Which is great. That's what we want. We want to grow with that business. We want to partner with them. I'm not interested in contracting people to us. I'm not interested in forcing people to spend a certain amount of money with us over a period of time. The most important thing for me is the relationship with the client and making sure that that is good and we retain that over time. What we do for them will change on a year-to-year basis. However, as long as that relationship is good, then I know we're delivering value and we'll work with them for years to come.
Got you. I like the mechanic analogy because it is difficult to quantify exactly what the cost of these services are. Like going to get your car serviced. I've got no idea. They could tell me anything. I'll be like, it doesn't feel right, but what do I know? Do you find that to be a bit of an issue with the customer relationship?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. And look, so again, this comes back to our ethos. It comes back to our DNA. When we call ourselves Integral Media, when we say that we're working with integrity, trust, that's not marketing. That's our ethos. That's our identity. That's who we are as a business. The marketing comes around telling people that story because it is a good story to tell people. But the reality is we need to live and die by that ethos. So to that degree, there are a lot of businesses out there that will charge a lot more money to provide the same services that we provide to our customers. And I know I could charge our clients a lot more money to provide those services, but I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in doing is charging a fair price, delivering value, delivering a good service, creating happy clients that we retain. But you are right. We will have wild discrepancies where maybe we're charging $2,000-$3,000 for a service, and then we find one of our competitors is charging $10,000 to $15,000 to provide the exact same service. Yeah. And like it blows my mind at times. I'm like, how do you justify charging people at that level? But then you think, okay, well maybe they're providing a lot more value, and then digging into the service and going, there's not that much more value. Like I'm okay with charging that amount if you're providing the value for it, but if you're charging that and you're not providing the value, then it's just not the way we operate.
Yeah.
I'll add into this. It's not because it also goes the other way. You're definitely not the most expensive, but you're also not the cheapest. So the people that we were paying previously were cheap, and they were cheap for a reason as well.
Yeah.
So it also goes the other way. You're paying for the results. You're not paying money for the sake of paying some money. So I think the biggest thing, like when business owners go on hire agencies or anyone, right? Because they have to know a little bit about the topic to know what questions to ask. Like the thing that stood out about Alex when I asked is like, what did you do? What did you do before this? Like it doesn't take much. If the people can answer details about how to run a certain ad, or if it's Google platform SEO, you have to know a little bit about that. If they can answer the details, they probably know what they're doing. But the thing is, a lot of business owners go out and hire somebody, go, you can do it? Okay, cool. And then you go and do it. But you literally just handed somebody else your problem without knowing they can solve your problem or not.
Right, yeah.
So
my old man was a professor. He was a professor of electrical engineering at Monash Uni. Smart guy, really, really knew his stuff. And I loved his idea in terms of being able to take really complex ideas And you could tell how much someone understood a really complex idea because they'll be able to take that and simplify it so that everyone in the room will be able to understand that. And if they can do that, they absolutely understand what they're talking about. If they can't, and it's too complex, they can't break it down so everyone in that room can understand it, then they don't fully understand it themselves. And I think for me, it's about, like, we do quite complex stuff for our clients, but it's about breaking it down to make it simple for our clients to understand what we are achieving, what we're doing for them.
Yeah, and what they're getting as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Otherwise, they won't know till they know, and they're just like, oh, I'm not sure if it's working. I'm not sure if it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, advertising, marketing, what we do, it's an intangible thing. Sometimes I get jealous of, like, people that sell cars.
Yeah.
It's like, I buy a car. Here you go. Here's some money. Here's my car. Drive away. I have a car. Whereas for us, it's like, okay, I bought advertising. What have I bought? Okay, you bought an idea. You bought a concept. And we know, based empirically, we know the more of these things that we do, the better outcome it leads to for your business. But it's really challenging to demonstrate value, especially when a campaign has just started and the client's like, we just spent all this money. What have I got for it?
You need time as well to
Totally.
show for it.
Yeah.
And people probably don't understand that. They think it's a quick sales thing. Yeah, where it happens overnight.
And the thing is, with advertising, with any sales, it never happens as fast as you want it to happen. And it never happens in quite the way you want it to happen. But over a long period of time, with sustained effort, it will always continue to improve and overachieve where you thought you would get to. But it takes time to get there. It takes time, and it never happens. I think it's the same in business, right? Like, it's the same in business. Business never gets there as fast as you want it to. Like, it always takes longer. It's always a much more up and down and rocky road on that process as well.
For sure, yeah. The industry that you're in is ever evolving constantly. And it's honestly, like, over the last 5 years, rapidly skyrocketed. How do you continue to stay ahead of the curve in terms of innovation at something that's changing at that rate?
Yeah, it's so I've been doing this for, wow, that's how long I've been doing it for. 17 years now, 17, 18 years. And in that time, it's just evolved and changed. And no day has been the same. No day has been the same. Every day it's just more developing, more growing, learning. I mean, that's kind of exciting. Like, that's like, for me, how do we stay relevant? How do we stay ahead of the curve? That's what motivates me. Like, that's what motivates me. I don't want to be doing the same thing day in, day out. I want to be learning. I want to be developing. I want to be growing. And for us, it's about fostering that culture within our business. So, some of our values are fail forward, be curious. So, we want people to develop, to learn, to grow. We want people to push the boundaries. We want people to, like, everyone makes mistakes, but we want people to then learn from those mistakes so we can continue to drive our business forward. For us, one of our KPIs, a core focus of our KPIs is innovation within our business. And it's done at how are you helping the business develop? How are you developing as an individual? So that's really something that we foster with our employees, because we want them to be growing, to be developing as well. And if they are doing that, then our whole organization is doing that. But it's incredibly challenging to do, especially like it's 6 months, our business is a completely different business now to the business we had 6 months ago. Completely different. How we service our clients, how we look after our clients is just entirely different. We are able to be a lot more efficient and effective in what we are doing because of developments in technology. So what we've done is we now do more. We've pushed the boundaries. We push the boundaries to do more, to add more value to our clients because we can. But it takes constant focus. So my lead, who was one of my lead SEO or operations manager, he's now my innovations director. That's just his job. His job is to understand how the market is changing, what's happening, because every day, every week, every month, there are new technologies coming out. There are new ways, better ways of doing things. I think how people have a bit of an idea of how things are changing, but I don't think people understand to quite the scale, or perhaps they don't want to understand, I think the face of business is going to be entirely different in the next 2 years.
Can you share, Alex, how do you, because if you put this as a part of your core values
Mm-hmm.
and your KPIs, what are some of the practical things that you do to be able to encourage this? Like, how would you be able to track innovation as a part of a KPI?
Training development. So we allocate time for our staff to consistently train and develop. However, you cannot be in a company like mine and not develop. Every day we're our staff are given new tasks, new challenges to work with. Every time that happens, you're going to be learning more from that process.
Are they being measured up on the number of new projects that they're learning as a part of, like, say, a weekly or monthly basis?
Yeah, so it depends on the life cycle of that employee. So our grads, it's every day. Every day they're allocating at least half of their day, their work days, to training and development, because they've got so much to learn at that point. But then when someone's been with the business for a couple of years, it can start to die down. But the expectation is you're at least allocating,
Gotcha.
at least 2 to 3 hours on a weekly basis to develop your skill set.
You do that by expecting them to allocate a certain amount of time towards this area.
Yeah. And the reality is, we now have the sum of all knowledge at our fingertips at any one particular time. So really what that looks like for us is everyone needs to be adopting AI into their workflow on an ongoing, consistent basis, even down to our lines of escalation now. That's the first line of escalation for any of our employees that have a question. Your first, if you have a question, the first thing you do is you ask AI. You need to ask AI first. If AI can't give you the answer, then you can ask your teammates, then you can ask management, and then it gets escalated to me if you can't answer after all those levels. But the first level should be AI, because most problems, most challenges can be solved.
Do you
at that level.
Do you program your own version of the AI in your workplace?
We do. So we've actually got so there are different levels of AI. There's a base level which most people have played around with, which is prompt engineering, or in-out, putting inputs into ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever it is, and then receiving outputs. The next layer that a lot of AI people are playing in is automations, connecting different systems, integrating different systems to try and get them to talk to each other, to try and pass insights and automate workflows that used to be manual tasks. At the top level is integration of AI agents into workflow. And the way these AI agents work is effectively employees. So we have a server set up within our business, and on that server we have each person has around 5 AI agents allocated to them. So they can, if they want, they can work on 5 complex tasks for each employee within our business at any one point in time. So what that effectively means is each employee is managing 5 employees, of which they can allocate really complex tasks. So not only we're encouraging them, and we're fostering this ethic of, you should be considering how you are doing your job today, but you should also always be considering how can you improve your job. So the learning and development, how do we measure it? It's a core tenet of how they do their job. It has to be now, because if it's not, we won't stay relevant as a business. Yeah.
Has this been a hard thing to teach the employees, how to utilize AI in a very efficient way?
It's interesting, right? Like we had challenges with this. We had challenges with this whereby we've, gone through different iterations of people within the business, lovely people, really nice people, but just couldn't adapt, could not adapt to this mindset of growth. For us, it's we've had to change over a good amount of our workforce to make sure that these individuals, when they come into the business, are groomed. That's a bad word. Are created, are fostered with this mindset of, you need to use these systems. Like now we simply don't have a choice. If they're not using these systems, we are not efficient. And the clients expect you to use these systems within your business. They expect it now. they were wary at the start. They were like, oh, you're just using AI to do all of these things. Now they're like, why are you not using AI to do all of these things?
Yeah.
So as a business, we have to be using these systems, and the workforce, we have to create this mindset that they have to be doing it. It's not a choice anymore. Yeah.
Got you. I wonder if there was these same challenges when Google or search engines, just traditional search engines, were coming out, or it was like, why are you using Google? Like, we don't want you because you're using Google. And then eventually it was like, why aren't you using Google? It's a much more efficient way to go about things.
Look, Wikipedia is another good example of that,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm showing my age, but I remember Wikipedia was really in its infancy when I was at university, and it used to be a case of you still can't quote Wikipedia as part of your assignments or anything at university, but it then absolutely became a fundamental tenet of doing research because it was a massive resource of any answer you could possibly think of. The same thing absolutely happened with search as the engines, as Google, as everything took off. There was this resistance to this, saying, well, there's a website created around this. Would you like me to Google that for you? It was massive for a while there, and it was like making fun of like people asking silly questions where it's like you can just Google that and the answer's right there. But it's a development beyond that, because it's not just, you're not having to pass the information now, you're provided the answer, you're provided the solution. Which there's a whole, the fear, brings another level of fear that people have, which is interesting because with every development of technology, there's always been this fear. When the radio first came out, people were like, oh, it's going to steal your soul. It's going to steal your soul, and it's going to make people stupid because the information's there and they're being provided. The same with television, the same with computers, the same with the internet, the same with search engines, and now it's the same with AI as well, where people are like, well, we're outsourcing our thinking. We're relying on these machines to do the thinking for us, so we won't have to do the thinking. However, I've got a bit more of an optimistic view on this, which is we now have more answers more quickly, and we are being taught the solutions to these problems as we're going. So the reality is we're getting smarter again. Yes, it's a tool that's helping us advance as a society, but the reality is it's doing that by teaching us as part of that process. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's there's always going to be some sort of hesitancy when these new things come up.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you use it in the right way, it can definitely be a beneficial thing. I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I got this from your website. AI integration for Australian business, 1000% ROI guide. Can you walk me through that as if, I was a business coming to you? Can you talk me through what that exactly means?
There's levels to that. So there are efficiencies around staffing. There's efficiencies around now your staff are more efficient and they can do more. There's a fear that comes along with that where I think people are like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my job to AI. But the reality is we still need people. We still need people to watch these systems, to guide over these systems. So there's a return on investment in terms of being able to deploy those hours, those man hours back into the business in more rewarding, maybe revenue generating areas for the business. A classic example is I was talking to this client yesterday. Now they have a sales force that it's a very administration heavy sales process. Lots of inquiries, very complex sale. So their sales force are basically hamstrung with administration. But what they're doing is all repeatable tasks. They're all repeatable tasks that are easily replaceable with technology. By deploying the right systems within their business, it means that we give them more efficiency for those salespeople to be picking up the phone and calling more new clients, which is really the highest value that they can bring. Like, we don't want them spending time sending emails to clients on like what's going on with their orders and what's going on with this and that. Like, you want that process to kind of be as smooth as it can be. So that's great for retention because your customers are getting a better experience, but then it's also great for your business because you're more efficient in terms of being able to redeploy those employees back into the business And also it's a cost benefit because now they're redeployed back into the business, they can do better things for you. So that 1,000% is actually made up of these compounding factors. That's like, okay, this one, increases profitability significantly. But then that compounded with the next one is a significant increase again. So it's these compounding factors that will really drive business forward. I'm actually a bit of an optimist when it comes to all of this because I think the economic boom that this will create will actually end up creating a lot of jobs as well. But I think it'll be the new nature of work. So yes, some jobs may cease to exist, but we're going to probably create a lot more jobs as part of that process as well. Yeah.
Have you thought much about this and where those new jobs would be? Obviously, in terms of managing AI systems or all that, is there anything else that might come up?
Look, that's my space. So that's like what I know most about. I'm sure Wayne could talk to the fitness industry and how that's changing and what the changing nature of work looks like there. But for me in my space, my advice to anyone studying or anyone at university or learning how to do a particular job would be learn how to do your job and learn how to do your job with AI. If you do that, you will be highly employable when you're trying to get into the workforce.
Got you.
Yeah.
Have you experienced any ways to get better at utilizing these things as opposed to the generic ask ChatGPT a question, get a response type of thing?
Get online, hunt, find out more. If you really want to level up, start looking at agentic or chat or AI agents. Start looking at different AI agents that you can. And the difference with these AI agents is you give it a task, and then it goes and creates a bunch of to-do lists. Goes to create a to-do list, and then creates a series of actions to complete that outcome for you. So it's not input output. It's I'm trying to do this. Okay, great. So you're trying to build a platform. So you need to do X, Y, and Z to build this platform. Let me go and research all these different things. So it'll actually keep iterating. It'll keep working away, asking different questions, exploring like an employee would to get you to achieve that outcome. How would people tool or skill up? Research, learn. I'm really loving playing with vibe coding platforms at the moment. So like the big one for us at the moment is Claude Code is a phenomenal platform, just absolutely phenomenal. Get stuck in. Get stuck in and start playing with it. What we do with our staff is basically we set them up and we say, hey, these are the things you can kind of do. Go and play with it.
Go and play, right.
Because the reality is we don't know what you can do. We actually don't know. What we can do is really dictated or controlled by what you can create, what you can perceive, what you think you can create. The more you play with it, the more you're like, oh, I can do this, or I can do that, or I can develop this, or I can code this, or yeah, it's really cool.
Can I ask a practical question about utilizing this, right? Because we've been thinking about trying to use AI to help us train new staff members that come on board. Let's just say our customer service staff with following our protocols and processes. It wasn't long ago, like 3 years ago, we had to make maybe 5 years ago, we made like an employee handbook.
Yeah.
This is what you do when a new member walks in. This is how you make a sale. This is how you handle this objection. How much of that now can we automate to AI to help us? Because we still train our staff members that come on board. Can we create like an AI process to help train the staff? And if the staff don't know how to do something, just ask the AI directly.
This is actually exactly what we're deploying for businesses at the moment. So we're helping them deploy their own AI agents, which are trained on all of their documentation, everything to do with that business. So like within my business, we have these points of escalation. Ask AI first, then ask this, then ask that.
And that AI is not just the standard AI. It's actually built around Integral Media Systems.
Well, for us, it's built around Integral Media Systems, but you can build one around training day systems. You can build one around the law firms. You can build them around specifically that company's documentation, that company's processes and procedures, so that all of your staff can start iterating with those systems.
And Claude AI is the platform you use to build this stuff.
We're using Claude Code at the moment.
Yeah.
So Claude Code, but that's what we're using at the moment. If you ask me next month, it might be a different platform because it's just changing so quickly.
For people to understand this, right? I was listening to a podcast on this. It's not like there are like a million different AIs. There's probably ChatGPT, there's Claude, there is Grok now. There's all these different platforms. But in terms of the actual platform that they use, there aren't that many, right? Like most of these companies, they just piggyback off someone else's platform. Is it like that?
Yeah, look, so there are, you can create your own LLMs. There are companies that are creating their own LLMs and then housing them on their own infrastructure. And they're doing that for data privacy reasons and control and governance. But the reality is they're just nowhere near at the same level as Anthropic, which is Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT. Like, they're just absolute chalk and cheese.
They're like 4 or 5 main ones. That's the
4 or 5 main ones.
Yeah.
And a lot of, you are right, a lot of the back end of a lot of these systems plug into those 4 or 5 main ones. But then, yeah, people can deploy their own LLMs, but they're just nowhere near as smart. They don't, like, it's all based on the training, the data, the training data that you're using to train these LLMs. And then also the infrastructure to be able to develop. Like, you think it's like, as a student, you study one subject and you're comparing that to a student that's studying all of these different subjects from all of these different universities. And that's effectively when you, like, I'm not a huge fan of embedding an LLM within a company. I'm a much bigger fan of using an agent that is embedding one of the big, 4 or 5 LLMs into their business, because they're generally a lot better. There's a risk process to that as well.
Okay. Well, if I'm going more practical, so for a business like ours, or business similar to ours, we'll have, 30 something staff members, and we have to onboard new staff every month. Let's just say that. Can we create an agent, and what would it realistically cost from a finance perspective, if you can give an idea, to create this agent essentially that helps us train up new staff that knows all of our policies, process from back to front? What's the cost that the business will pay for that?
Nowhere near as much as you think it would be.
Like thousands?
Probably less.
Wow.
Probably less. This is what I mean. Like the cost benefit is just mind blowing. Like, the cost to deploy these systems versus the benefit that they have for a business is just.
And it's like a one-off cost. Majority of it is the one-off.
Yeah, look, so for the AI agents we're deploying for our customers, we have to host these agents on a server somewhere. So there's minimal costs. Like, it's not a huge amount compared to the benefit that they receive from these. You can upload your own documentation to these LLMs. You can say, like, hey, here's all my documentation, store this, catalog it, index it, make it relevant. Because we've done this a little bit, we know how to configure them in a specific way that's going to be meaningful for a business. But the reality is, if you play with these systems enough, like, it'll configure itself
you might
to
have to
your
talk
business.
off camera to get one of these built. Right?
Yeah.
But the thing I'll just add on, like, how you asked before about, like, AI is taking jobs and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have a comment that, like, I'm sure Alex would agree with this. Like, all business owners agree with this. Here's why. Sure, I think AI will take some jobs, no doubt about it. But the fundamental thing, I don't think would be a problem, because business owners now could always cut more jobs if they wanted to. And the fundamental principle that businesses have is to create, because you can't save your way to wealth. So if you gave me and Alex $1 million, for example, like, we'd be thinking of ways to spend that resource, not save that resource. That's capitalism. That's creation. So we've just got a resource, which is what AI. As Saves has more resources, we are going to go back. So me asking that question is not thinking about, now I can fire a manager because AI can do this for me. I'll be thinking, what else can my managers do now? So it's always that creation mindset. Hence why I don't think people need to worry about, like, oh, everyone's going to. No, I think there's going to be a loss of jobs in the short term, but businesses will just get hungry. They have more resources. They're going to have to, like, find ways to create more things.
Yeah. And in the end of the day, there is still something to be said about soft skills within a business. There's still something to be said about dealing with people. We want to deal with people. We want to still create these relationships with other individuals. That becomes hugely important. And these systems need oversight. They need oversight. We need to ensure that they're doing the right things as well. Yeah.
That's one part that is hard to replace, right? Like, that human factor.
Totally.
Personality hire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing that I'm thinking, because even that impacts our industry. Honestly, like, with so much people involved. I've listened to stuff that people think that even that AI will eventually do better than humans, because ultimately the difference between us and, I don't know, animals is our level of intelligence. What do you think about that?
There's a philosophical conversation around this.
Yeah.
There's absolutely a philosophical conversation around what does it mean to be human? What does humanity mean to us? What is, we've always had this definition of sentience, and we've always spoken about, historically, we've spoken about AI to determine when we have true AI, true artificial intelligence, as what is the point at which these systems become sentient. And it gets you into this whole crazy conversation around what does it actually mean to be human? How do we consider ourselves sentient? And then there's a whole conversation around creativity, right? Saying that, okay, well, it's our creativity that have created these systems and our original thought that has led us to this point to be able to develop these systems. But as an original thought, because the reality is we just do the same as these LLMs. We are taking ideas that we have already been given and we are formulating other ideas based off other ideas, which people have done before us, and people have done before that, and they have done before that. So these LLMs really, are they rehashing old ideas or are they creating new ideas? I would probably argue that they're starting to create new ideas. So then I had an interesting conversation with someone yesterday around this to say that, well, an AI doesn't feel in the same way that we feel. And that's interesting because there have been incidents where they've tried to shut some of these AI systems down, where they've run these tests and they've said, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to run a test to say, we're going to pretend that we're going to shut the system down, and we're going to give it access to the developer that's shutting the system down. We're going to give access to their pretend emails. And there's been instances where these AI systems have tried to blackmail the developer with information that have found from that email to say, if you try and shut me down, like, I'm going to release this information about you.
They'll self-preserve.
And where they've tried to copy themselves to other servers. So when they know they're getting shut down, to try and copy themselves to another server to make sure they can preserve themselves. When they've questioned about it, say, I can see you've tried to copy yourself to another server here. What have you, like, why are you doing that? And its response is, no, I wasn't. So it's lying to also try to preserve itself as well. It might not feel in the same way as us because years of evolution have led us to this point and to feel the way in which we do feel. But it's almost like the way these systems might feel is if you removed... So the reason we've evolved to this point is because we have our mammalian brains, we have our prehistoric brains, which are, that's like fight, flight, sits at the top of your spine in the brain. It's not your logical center. It's really how we feel. So we talk about this, connection between your logical brain and how we feel. And when people are in balance, is trying to get those to connect to each other in a way that's meaningful for them, to not try and logic through your feelings, but to just experience them and feel them within your body to make sure that they can you can navigate through them properly. Well, maybe these systems do feel, but maybe they feel in a different way to how we understand, because the way we feel is developed from millennia of, oh, that thing's going to hurt me, I better run away from that. Or that's hot, I better not touch that. Or that's cold. But the way maybe these things will feel will be, they might have the self-preserve.
They have the memories.
They have memories.
The memories create that evolutionary feeling that you're talking about.
And what's interesting is the neural networks that these AI systems create really start to, if you actually look at them, they actually start to look like synapses within a brain. There are a lot of similarities between those. So like it's really interesting where we go. There's a whole philosophical conversation around where we go as a society. Obviously you get stuck into the Terminator Skynet kind of thing. Are they going to try and take over the world? I don't think they'll bother, right? Like I think at this point, if they become that evolved, they'll probably look at this like, oh, these guys are kind of entertaining, aren't they?
Yeah. I was listening to the podcast because they were saying like, what is the smartest human now is now no longer smarter than AI.
No, yeah.
So in, I don't know, 30 years or whatever, they were saying that the intelligence difference between humans and AIs are going to be humans to flies. So we're just going to be flies to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they ask a question of, would you just go and kill flies for no reason? You wouldn't unless it's necessary or unless it's like your goal.
Beneficial.
Right. Yeah. So I guess the goal is like AI is not going to get rid of us for nothing. There has to be, because it takes energy to do that.
Yeah.
So, but that is...
So it's a real interesting philosophical conversation you get stuck into with this. But then, pulling it right back, I think there's, like with any technology, with any advance, there's obviously risk. There's obviously risk, but there's huge potential rewards in that as well. And I think the way I'm viewing this is in an optimistic manner to say that, yes, there are risks there, but managed properly, there are great rewards, I think, for society, for humanity. I think the way we talk about the changing nature of work, I mean, imagine a world in which we cease the need to work because these systems are doing all the work for us. How do we accumulate? Like, what does that do to capitalism? If we don't need to work because these systems are doing all the jobs, the things that we normally do,
everything
for
will be
us.
free. Because, everything will be free.
Yeah, I suppose.
So where do we go? I don't know, mate. Like, is it Star Trek? What do we
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a bit bizarre. But then you could look at who is, I suppose,
controlling the systems?
the systems that are providing us this lifestyle. Yeah, then it gets a bit.
Is that the ultimate control? And they talk about the age of technocracy, where the techno overlords, effectively, like we're transitioning to this point where, your Sam Altmans or your Elon Musks might be controlling the world because they are controlling the resource, the access to this technology. But at the same time, it's also a great leveling field. You have people in very poor countries that have the same level of access to technology now that we do, being very privileged, living in a Western society. Like, there's this equalizing level of technology that they can do the same stuff that we can now, because it's also not reliant on having a very powerful computer, because you can load all this stuff up on a server and then you can just do the exact same thing that we're doing as well. Yeah,
there's heaps of benefits.
Yeah. So where do we go? I don't know.
I don't know.
No
either,
idea. We'll see.
It is interesting because, like, the Elon Musk's, I'm not sure about Sam Altman. I don't think he would say this, but Elon Musk has been very cautious about AI and has talked a little bit about the potential downsides and negatives of it continuously accelerating. And I think movies and everything else portrays it as it's going to end up dystopian, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you said, Skynet, even iRobot, all these things. It's like, the robot uprising, basically. Does that happen? I'm not really sure, but that is where the fear comes from. That is the
I think so.
What people look to.
I think so, but these things are usually overstated, aren't they? If we look at history, and the reality of what happens is, we usually, like, you look at sci-fi movies from like turn of the century, and they had like these evil robots that were coming to kill us back then. It hasn't happened yet. Maybe it will. I don't know. I think I'm a bit more of an optimist around the opportunity that it creates for business and for society and our advancement as a species. I think there's a lot of potential upsides there. You look at the revolutions in medical in the medical space. Like, they're doing some amazing stuff. That they're discovering new compounds, they're discovering new ways to treat things that we've always had the data, we've always had the information. We just didn't see the correlations. But because these data sets can be processed at such a mass level now, we can cut through all this information at a much faster pace. So there's a lot of upside, I think.
Heaps of upside. What about on a personal level? Because obviously not everyone's in the medical field, and that will benefit everyone. But from a personal front, or even just someone maybe in a digital space business or want to enter that space, how do they capitalize on this next 5 to 10 years of development?
I was watching this TikTok, and the guy was like, basically, if you had to start $1 million business tomorrow, what would you do? And his answer, which I thought was really interesting, was I would pick up the phone and I would call a business and I would say, are you looking to try and adopt AI tech into your business to try and improve what you're doing as a business? Yes, great. Let's have a conversation. No, cool. Next one. On to the next one. On to the next one. I was saying this with Wayne, like, this is a conversation I'm having every day in my business, and every boardroom around Australia and around the world is having. We've passed the point of we need to adopt AI. So at executive level, at boardroom level, directors, owners, whatever it is, it's now, why haven't we adopted these systems already? What's holding us back? Why are we not? So there's a lot more pressure to adopt now. But then that also needs to be conversely measured against the risk as well, which I think is, you talk about, blindly, the Musk having a bit of reservation. I think there's a sensible middle ground. We don't want to be we don't want to be just completely trailblazing. We want to make sure that it's sustainable and mitigating risk where we can, as we're adopting these new technologies into business. Yeah, but that's what I would do if I was, if I was starting out, I'd just pick up the phone and I'd start calling businesses and saying, "What are you doing to adopt AI in your business?"
And
Let's
then
have
on
a
the background, make sure you're researching and being the best person you could be at being the middle ground between
Totally.
the person who's uneducated and the person who knows exactly what to do.
Yeah, and look, the fact of the matter is the systems will tell you. If you don't know what you're doing, these systems will tell you exactly what to do.
Right. Yeah.
And they will educate you. So the real power to the individual is, and I think it also talks to the changing nature of education in the future as well, is not only do we have the sum of all knowledge at our fingertips, we also have a customized education at our fingertips as well. Every student now can learn at their own pace based on exactly where their comprehension sits, because it can be entirely customized to that individual and that can continue to develop. How powerful is that?
So good.
How
Yeah.
powerful is that? For my boys, my 10-year-old, a couple of weekends ago, he was sitting there playing computer games. And I'm like, we're not going to play computer games anymore. We're going to make computer games. So I've got him building games and he loves it. But I just sit there. I have Claude sitting on my desktop for him now. And I'm like, just start talking to it. Start chatting to it. Start asking whatever you want.
Yeah. I want to build this game, blah, blah, blah.
Totally.
Bunch of blocks, do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking what that does to the education system. Like I just remember us growing up, even a calculator is like banned in school. Okay? Like don't use a calculator. And why would I need to know this? I can use a calculator. And then it became Google. And now all kids are going to be born with this.
And they are struggling. Education institutions are struggling answering this question at the moment because a lot of at university levels, we see a real mixed bag. Half of them are saying, we don't want you using AI to complete these projects. And then the other half are saying, we want you to use AI to complete these projects. But the reality is, when they all come out of university, the first thing any employer is going to ask is, how much do you use AI? That's the first thing they're going to ask is what have you learned?
Well, they want the job done.
Absolutely.
They don't care how you do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it needs to be integrated. We don't have a choice. What's interesting is one of my friends who works at one of the universities, I won't say which one, so their lecturers are asking, how can we want to embed AI to help us mark these students' assignments.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, right? Because we might have the students using AI to create the assignments, of which these assignments are then going to the lecturers who are using AI to mark the assignments. It's almost like skip the AIs to talk to each other.
Yeah. Skip the whole process entirely. Yeah.
No, actually, that does some stuff to my brain. I'm just thinking, where is the human side of this? Okay, that links onto me gonna ask. It depends on the questions you ask the AI. So essentially, the more intelligent humans in the future are going to be the ones that knows how to ask the right questions.
Prompt engineers. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to this for a second. If I were a practical example, if I'm someone that wants to say figure out where my next holiday destination is, and I want to ask based on my preferences, ask AI to give me this recommendation, what are the tips you would do to make this prompt the best way?
There's really good guides on this. So there's you talk about the different sections of a prompt, and I forget them from memory, but it's the first one is, imagine you're an expert luxury travel agent and you're advising your client. So you're giving it the context of, this is who you are, this is what I want you to do, this is the output in which I want to receive it, and then catch all at the end. If I've forgotten anything else as part of this prompt, make sure you include that as part of the research that you do as well. So where people are leveling up is you're right, the structure of the prompt, but then also asking the question, what have I forgotten? What have I not included as part of this request? And what should I be considering as part of this request? Let the sum of all knowledge tell you.
I'll use your tip now.
Yeah. I told him this the other week. I said, at the end of your prompt, just say, ask me questions until you're 95% sure that you can accurately answer my question.
Yeah.
And then it will give you 5 different questions about
I love it.
context effectively, and then it answers it a bit better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just learned something new. I just realized that so the intelligence of humans, or our capabilities, by the looks of it, where it's going, it's can we ask the right questions?
Mm.
Because that would, if that actually happens with the students asking questions to AI, AI does the homework, and then the other side assesses using AI. Essentially, is who asks the better questions.
And the thing is as well, you still learn. Just because you've been given the solution, you still learn from that because maybe you're proofreading that solution. So you're actually still learning because if you read through it, you're going to learn.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I can see the references here. So this is why they've thought this and this is why they've thought this. So our rate of learning actually accelerates. So the US government has tracked our IQ levels for hundreds of years. And they've done this based on applicants to the army, applicants to the Defense Force in America. What they found is with every generation, our IQ has increased and increased and increased as we've had more access to more information, and the intelligence in humanity has increased over time. And I feel the same thing will happen with AI. I feel we will become more intelligent. Not the fear was that we would become less because we don't have to think. We're outsourcing the thinking. I think the reality is it will allow us to think more. It'll allow us to be more creative. You talk to musicians, and musicians are, again, some are afraid, but some are really kind of excited by it because they're like, well, this allows me to do more with my creative process. This allows me to think more creatively, to have more ideas, to develop more, which is really exciting because that community, the arts, were really worried, concerned, and well, if we have these things that can create images, that can create all of these different things, then what's our part in this piece? But the reality is, I think it's empowering them to be able to create more, to do more, to develop more ideas, which is kind of cool.
You just got my brains thinking. Because I'm thinking about this creation of music, for example. Right? I'm not, my brain straight went to thinking like, okay, well, can AI write a symphony? Can they write a music? And I'm thinking they probably can, because it will just take the information of what's out there now and compose something, right? And then I'm thinking that's the difference between humans and AIs, because we're creating out of our own inner creativity, not with information. But then I'm thinking, wait a minute, no, because we also hear stuff.
This is what I was saying before.
Yeah.
We are creating based on what we have heard.
Yes. So it's really just experience.
Is it a new idea? Like there's this whole concept of, so the idea of postmodernity is everything is a repeat of a repeat of a repeat of a repeat. That idea has been around for a long time. In much the same way that is AI just another iteration of that? Yes, we might have fed it the ideas, but is it fair that we say it's not creating new ideas when really
are we doing it?
It's doing the same as we're doing. We're giving it we're given a whole bunch of inputs, and then we create an output based off that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that a person in the Stone Age, all right, cannot create a music that somebody could create today, because they haven't heard the Kanye West and the Taylor Swift. They don't have that knowledge in there.
The level you think about how art has developed. You look at the Renaissance, and you look at how art developed through the Renaissance, and all of a sudden people's ability to draw improved significantly because we were able to conceptualize things in 3 dimension rather than just these flat 2D boring drawings and art. So translate that back to the cave. We weren't drawing 3D pictures back then. We were drawing figures on the walls in caves, and they were 2D. But we are iterating based on previous information, based on previous ideas.
We're just large language models.
We are large language models.
Effectively, over enough time, pretty much.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
cool.
crazy.
They just do it at a much faster rate, is what I would gather.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Based on input. So creating a symphony, it might take us, note by note, but you say create something based on music like Bach, Beethoven and all this, and then it will spit out something that's similar, but in 15 seconds.
Yeah, and even the context of how it's amazing how people give me a symphony as if it were written by Black Sabbath, and then taking that and then doing it in that different style. The ability to create is determined by what we are able to conceptualize, what we are able to perceive and think. It's incredible, really.
It will just cut down the amount of time, especially in these creative fields, that it will take. And the people who kind of gravitate towards using it as a tool as opposed to being afraid of it and thinking you've got to, I've got to be authentic and natural. I can't use these AI systems to help create. They're just going to be slower, and eventually we'll probably have to just adopt to them.
And this is to my point before, right? Like, learn how to do your job and then learn how to do your job with AI. If you do that, then, the world is your oyster. Yeah.
I've got this interesting thought, right? I don't know, like, because I listen to rap music. Okay. I listen to a lot of rap music. I grew up listening to Eminem, 50 Cent rap music. And one of the pillars of rap is, there's storytelling, there's the beat and there's all of that. But one technical side of it is, can you make the words rhyme, especially multi-syllable words that rhyme? And sometimes you want to say something, and I bet you a lot of rappers I don't have the word that rhymes with this. Just put it into AI right now. It will write a better whole song than you. And I'm thinking, Eminem's job's just been replaced.
Yeah, to some degree. They do make AI songs. Like, they're not. And they'll say it's like a Drake song.
It'll be better, technically.
Yeah,
it has more words. It has more. It's literally languages.
I think you can still identify when something is created purely from.
So that's the thing. What is it? So that's what we're trying to find out. Like, there is that thing that makes us.
Do you know? I can't think of.
What is it?
I can't think of what the test is. I'm thinking it's where
the Turing.
Is it the Turing test?
I think
it is, where you meet a robot, and if you don't know it's a robot, then it's passed the test, basically.
Yeah, so I think they've said that we've passed that. Like, I think, like, you read articles and it's subjective, right? It's subjective. So, like, I've read a few articles recently where they're like, we've done that now. We've passed that point where we can't determine whether it's a robot or a person that you're interacting with. But then there's dispute around that as well. There are people that still dispute it, but. Look, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, if nothing else, it's like the opportunity, the future, what is possible for us is greatly expanded. The improvements in terms of science and how that's developing around being able to develop different technologies as well is just really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff. Like, I think a lot of the problems that have escaped us because we just haven't had the manpower to basically think through these challenges. Well, now we do. Now we have that ability. So, look, I'm excited. I'm really curious to see where we go as a species. Yeah,
I agree.
Question for you, Alex. Maybe if you were to say, just sum up your 17 years in digital media, all the past decade in doing business, what would be, from your experience, one up to three things of the biggest contributing factor to your success or your business so far?
You ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
You got to explain
really good
that.
book. Don't panic. What's the secret of success? Don't give up. Keep going. I think the difference. I think it's persistence, right? It's having the grit to get through those times when, and I think every business owner has those points where they're like, I'm done now. I am totally done. Like, this is it. Like, we're good now. Like, I'm just going to sell. I'm done. I think every business owner has those points. And I think it's just about taking a step back and just pushing forward, keeping pushing forward through those points.